There it is, 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is just amazing. I said that if we hit 2,000 subscribers, I'd put out this technical analysis video showing how to use those indicators listed in the previous video, which are also the indicators that I use. But that's not all. I'm going to be revealing a huge secret as to how to find these trades and how to scalp for consistent gains. Not only that, I'd like to say thank you for all the amazing support. You guys are awesome. I love to see all the profits and testimonials posted every day. So with that said, let's grow together and let's attain that financial freedom. So first up, I'm going to go over the indicators that I use just very briefly. We have the 8, 21, 50, and 200 exponential moving averages. Those are denoted by the blue, orange, green, and red lines on the chart, respectively. Next up, we have VWAP, which is the volume weighted average price, and that is denoted by the gray line on the chart. After that, we have the relative volume indicator at the bottom, which essentially compares the current volume versus the past 15 days average volume. So that's denoted by the purple line in the chart, and the current volume is the green bars. Lastly, I have Cobra Algo, which, as you guys know, is an auto support, auto resistance indicator. It also indicates things such as long, short, or essentially where to sell, where to buy. It has take profits. This is all amazing. I use all these features in conjunction, and I'm going to show you just how you can use these indicators to enter your trades. So first thing I'd like to go over is, how do you want to use technical analysis? Well, you're going to want to use it as a checklist. Think about if you're taking a test. Let's say you're taking a multiple choice test and the answers are A, B, C, and D, and you choose the answer is A. Your second friend comes along, says, okay, I got A too. A third, fourth, and fifth come along and all say they got the answer is A. So what does this tell you? The more people that tell you the answer is A, or what they got was A, then the more confident you can be that you're going to get that question right. It's the same exact thing with trading. The more indicators you have telling you that a trade's going to be bullish or bearish, the more likely it is to go your way. So first up, let's just look at SPY here. You can see that it triggered a short signal on the 5-minute on the day before. Now, before I go any further, I do use the 5-minute to enter trades, and I typically use the 15-minute to exit, which I'm going to describe later. But anyways, we have the short signal. Now remember, with exponential moving averages, or any moving averages, whenever a shorter time frame crosses under a longer one, that typically indicates a bearish pattern. When it crosses above, that's usually bullish. So as you can see here in the downtrend, the 8 EMA, or the blue line, is under the orange one, which is the 21 EMA. So that's indicating a bearish pattern. Now, remember, just because the blue line crosses under the orange line doesn't mean that we're in a full bearish trend. That can happen and the stock can still move up, or it could just be a fake out. Next up, we have VWAP. The way I love to use this indicator is stocks don't like to deviate too far from its average. It's like anything in life. If anything deviates too far from its average, it always tends to pull back, which is what you can see here on SPY and as with any stock. Whenever a stock deviates too far, it'll always try to pull back towards that median and close that gap before it moves either way again. So that's VWAP. You want to always look for and see how far the stock is from it. So like you can see when we started the day here on SPY at the beginning of the day, you can see how it's basically wrapping around that line. It kind of serves as like a median type of line for it, or the average, like we said. Relative volume, or the indicator at the bottom, when you see the green bars, or when you see basically the bars that are above the purple line, that means that there's more volume currently. And what that's going to help you understand is if a stock is moving on a volume, if it's weak. So right now we can kind of see that there's a lot of buying going around on this range, and you can see closer to the end of the day or midday, we have a lot of times where the market is typically choppy. There wasn't as much volume versus the past 15 days, and we can assume that there's more uncertainty then. Lastly, we have the auto support, auto resistance, in which we can use to our advantage. Remember, support and resistance is an important thing in conjunction with charting patterns, but throughout the day, especially when you're trying to enter a trade, sometimes you don't have the time to plot support and resistance manually, and you might miss some. So this takes out some of the work from that, and this is going to help majorly. So if we look here, this was one place that I took SPY puts today. On this break of support, around 411. And we can see exactly what it did here. So how do you want to play these trades? Well, I always wait for a break under, and then I wait for a retest of support to play it. And what I mean by a retest of support is it's going to retest it and use it as resistance and then bounce downwards. Remember, support and resistance can be used interchangeably, and that's exactly what we see here. We see SPY breaking under right here at this point, and then it goes down a little bit, bounces back up to that resistance, and goes down. Now, you might be looking at this trade and say, well, I could have just got in here and rode this down all the way here. That's very true, but if you got in at this point and it went down here, that might be, let's say, 40-50% on that trade. But when it pulls back up to that line, you might be down -10, -20%. So you could very well get faked out in this trade. It's a mess you don't want to end up in. It could essentially stop out your trade, or you could end up selling for a loss thinking that the stock is rebounding. So you want to always make sure you wait for a clean break of support, test it as resistance, and then go down. Even if it doesn't do that, it just keeps going down straight, there's always another play. You want to make sure you're taking well-calculated plays. So now that we went over the indicators here, let's see how we could have taken this trade or why I took this trade. Well, at this point, we had a retest of support. It used it as resistance, and it bounced off. Number 2, the 8 EMA is under the 21 EMA. So that's a bearish pattern. So now we have basically two signals confirming that we're almost in a bearish trend. Number 3, we retested kind of closely to VWAP. So we, went a little bit far here at this point, went back a little bit closer. So that means we can deviate again and go down. So that's a third one. Number 4, we see that the volume is iffy. There's not that much volume on this stock. So that's now a fourth thing. Number 5, I saw a lot of puts coming in on that time at using Flow Algo, or you could use like Cheddar Flow, Black Box. Those are all flow services. So that's now 5 indicators you can use. They're telling you that yes, this trade is going to go bearish. Number 6, I saw the volume on puts greater than calls for today's expiration on Webull, which you can look at volume versus open interest and all that. So essentially what I'm trying to say here is that there were many indicators on my side to take this trade. And if you held this trade all the way through, if you got in about 410 and you held this all the way down here to maybe about 404, that would have profited you maybe 200-300%. Now I pulled out for some small gains around, I think it was like 20-40% or so, but there's nothing wrong with that. I was just done trading for the day. I made the profits that I wanted, and I essentially stopped there. But this is how to use all these indicators. Now, here is for the secret. As you can see here, I have a chart up of SPY on the left, ABBV in the middle, and UPS on the other end. This was a play that I took about 2 weeks ago. And what you can see is SPY is moving down here, but ABBV and UPS are moving up. So what this tells you is that these stocks are moving on their own volume. They're moving against the market. And here's a great example here. This is one Friday when I took Airbnb calls almost 5,000%. And you're looking at this and that number sounds humongous, but I'll tell you exactly what happened. $18 at the bottom here turned into $550 at the top. So if we look at SPY, this was some time ago, we can see that at the end of February 26th, after market open, we had 4 red candles on SPY. Airbnb had earnings the night before, so they had a nice catalyst. We can see it put out a green candle at open, and then it tanked to that support. Now, what do you notice? On the 4th candle for SPY, we have almost a $4 drop. On the 4th candle for Airbnb, we have a green candle. That means at this point, on the biggest red candle on SPY, Airbnb was moving against the market. Now, what do you know? Well, SPY fell almost $7 from open, or the high of the day, until about that 4th candle. So essentially a $7 drop, and it dropped to about $3.78. We're going to have at least some type of pullback on the next candle. If a stock is moving against the market in a red market and it's moving up, then when that candle reverses and SPY puts out a green candle, that's only going to fuel that stock to move heavier because now it doesn't have any resistance holding it back. That's exactly what you see. We have a huge green candle on SPY on the next, and look at Airbnb on that next candle. That's a huge green candle. While that might not look significant, that went from about 191 all the way to almost 198. That's a $7 gain. Even if you didn't hold for the whole trend, that's still an easy 200-300% on a Friday expiration. Now you can see how this stock really moved up. those 210 calls had the highest volume on them. They went from about $18 to 550. This was just an amazing play. It was almost 5,000%. Like I said, this is a huge secret here that you want to make sure you're looking at, is the stock moving against the market or with the market? And that's going to help you understand if the stock's moving on its own volume and how SPY is going to help it. Another tip, you don't want to take a stock or a play when SPY is near resistance. Reason being, if you take a play when SPY is maybe 0.2 from resistance, it might just pull up to that resistance and then tank. So you want to make sure that you're safeguarding yourself, and there's many things you can do here. So if we go through our indicator checklist with Airbnb again, first up we have a green candle at open when SPY was red, so we know that the stock was originally moving on some volume. 2, we had earnings the night before. Number 3, we have a green candle on the largest red on SPY. 4, the stock deviated too far from VWAP. It's going to want to pull back up. Number 5, we have the 8 EMA, or the blue line, over the 21, or the orange line. So that's another indicator there. Number 6, we see the relative volume indicator is green across the charts. We have essentially volume that is greater than the past 15 days average. And we have a nice volume coming in on those 210 calls. That's many indicators we have right there telling us that this trade is going to be bullish. And that's how you can take your trades, you can plan them carefully, and that's how I personally score a high win rate. So with that said, this is how to use those indicators that I put out yesterday. And if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to DM me. Thank you guys for 2,000 subscribers, and let's get it.